Thank you. Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's expecting many guests.
Oh.
Shall we start?
Yes.
No, why are you doing that? I don't.
Okay, go ahead.
You good to go? Shall we start?
Yes.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Madhya Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shrimadi Vaishnavi Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare.
So we are coming to the conclusive days of our history presentations here in Radhadesh, and I'm not sure if we'll have some audience tomorrow. Yeah, we can keep it there. Yeah. So I guess today probably will be the last session based on see how the response is. So if we get some good audience tomorrow, then we'll have a session again tomorrow. That will be on how old is the Vedic culture. Right? Today is about worldwide Vedic heritage, and this is about the search for India outside India, the search for Bharat or the Vedic culture outside India. It's going to be a very intriguing discussion on how the Vedic culture has prevailed across the entire of Europe and parts of Africa, Southeast Asia and so on. So as we proceed, we'll first start with some interesting photos. Any guesses?
Hanuman? Oh, Shinga. It's not that rubbish.
No, that's because what we do programs and everywhere I have to have copyright. Other people take photos and then they say they are the ones who discovered it. So I have it in every slide. Okay, so yeah. So yeah. What do you think? Okay. But this is not from India.
It should only be from Egypt.
Japan.
Correct. This is from Egypt.
Oh, from Egypt.
And he was a god and his name is Mahis. Mahis. Possibly the word is derived from the word Maheshwara. Maha Ishvara, the great Ishvara. The very powerful controller Ishvara, Maheshwara could have become Mahis. Again, this is a likely conjuncture, likely similarity. So now we come to this interesting
This is ancient
ancient Egypt.
Ancient paintings.
No, this is a representation because we have descriptions, not much of paintings, but descriptions based on that.
Can I switch the light?
Sorry?
Yeah, please.
I think so, yeah.
And if it's possible to speak more close to the
I'll do that, yeah. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the mic is going better without the light.
This one we have given some. No, this one is not a real picture. I mean, this is a real picture, but this exactly is not the picture of the deity which was destroyed. Or understand? So this is a nearby temple of that temple, because the current the ancient temple has been converted into a church. So I don't want to show that in my slides. Okay, so I'll come to this. This is the most ancient Krishna temple of Armenia. Is in Europe or Asia? Armenia is in Europe. I think it's in Asia. It's on the borders of Asia, right?
It's Caucasus.
Sorry.
It's Caucasus.
It is, but from the geographical point of view, it is European subcontinent or Asia? I think it is Asia. Anyway, it's much near to Europe if it's not. So this is the most ancient Krishna temple outside of India and much far away from India. This is nearly 2100 years old. 2100 years old, found in Armenia. And where is Armenia? It is north of Iraq. Okay, and in this temple you will see that there is a famous deity of the god by the name Gishen, as you can see there. And Gishen was a very famous god in ancient Armenian culture. Okay, temple of Gishen. I have given a complete analysis. Whoever doesn't have the book must get it, and you will see a complete analysis of how this temple of Gishen is actually temple of Krishna. And there were many Indians, as described by the Syrian traveler by the name Zenon. Zenon is a Syrian traveler, so he writes in his travel record. He says that the Indians worshipped a god by the name Gishen. Gishen, Gishen, and through multiple analysis, it is clear that this was Krishna, the temple of Krishna, which was worshipped in Armenia. And there were initial preachers who came here in the 3rd century CE, so they got rid of this temple, and the Vedic culture completely vanished from Armenia at this point of time. Now, how it vanished, the painful history and everything I have narrated in my book. So this is the ending point of Krishna consciousness in Armenia. This is around 2100 years minimum old. So what happens in these regions in Europe and Asia? We have a sudden abrupt ending of the pagan culture. Pagan. So when you study this pagan culture, you will see a lot of similarities between the Vedic culture of India. Now in Europe, this is a very interesting field which not many devotees are looking into, but this is a field of huge possibility, which is the study of the pagan religions. Now in Europe, we had what is called as a pagan religion. How many of you heard paganism, pagan religion? Anybody who has not heard of paganism before? Pagan religion and all? Not heard? You have heard. Anyone who has not heard of pagan religion before? So that I'll have to explain it.
The Druids, are they also pagan religion?
They had practices of pagan religion. I'll be coming to Druids. Okay, anyone here who has not heard of pagan? So I presume, okay, not heard. Because from the Indian background, devotees, I'm expecting that they should not know. Because it's not common for us to know what is pagan. Even I didn't know unless I started research. So pagan is basically before 2000 years, people here had a culture, had a religion, had a tradition of worshipping multiple gods. And it finished very abruptly. So when you study these different gods and goddesses, you will find that they have a lot of connections to India, to the Indian Vedic gods and goddesses.
Did you say before Jesus came or?
Yeah, before. Yeah. So this is the paganism of Europe which got suppressed and destroyed. And it was also derogatory to be a pagan. It was like, oh, you're a pagan, how? You're worshipping anything and everything. It was that kind of, devotees here from the Western background know this better. So,
the etymology of pagan is the translation.
I'm not sure. Pagan is how it's pronounced. I don't say it is Sanskrit.
What caused them
we'll be coming to that. We're coming to that step by step. So every region in Europe had something called as a culture and pagan religion. Okay, so Albania had its Albanian paganism. Baltic region had its Baltic paganism. I just wanted to add one point that I'm not sure if I'll be able to complete this session today because it's a really long session and we also started quite late at 5:40 or 5:45. So hope I'll do justice and try to cover as much as possible. So lost paganism of Europe, paganism, base paganism, Celtic, North European paganism, Etruscan paganism, Finnic paganism, Germanic paganism, ancient Greek religion. Then we have Hungarian native faith, Minoan religion, Moldovan native religion, Norse religion, religion in ancient Rome, shamanism, Scythian religion. This is Shaka, this is very important. Shaka religion, Slavic paganism, Slavs. Right, so this is different cultures. But the thing was that when the same thing, when the British colonials ruled India, their concept was that Indians, only they have fables and fantasies, whereas we are perfect, we have nothing wrong, everything is great with us. Okay, so this was the mindset. But in every religion and culture, we have what is called as a supernatural supernatural belief system. That it is believed that these divine activities, supernatural things happen. So separating that from the archaeological and historical things which we find is what is important for a neutral historian to do. Or generally what they do, okay, there are supernatural descriptions in Mahabharata, so entire Mahabharata is mythology. Whereas you find that in every religion, it's not just Mahabharata. So this was the mindset of the colonials who used to rule in India. And we covered this in the first session. I mean, some of you were there. So I'm going to skip this because this will take a considerable amount of time. So what the British did in India is that they very cleverly designed a new concept, a new racial identity which never existed in the past. A new racial identity which never existed in the past. And that identity was the Aryan identity as a race. Because Arya was never a race. Arya was never a race. Arya means one who is civilized. That's all it is. It refers to, it is more like a qualification. If I am qualified, I am an Arya. If I am unqualified, I am an Anarya. Krishna says to Arjuna, don't behave like an Anarya. Right? Don't behave like an Anarya. Behave like an Arya. Be a civilized person. So it was more of a civilizational identity. It was not a race. All of you understand what is a race? Do you understand what is a race? Racial theories, race and all that. I mean, it's complete silence and difficult for me to understand. We all understand what is a race? Yeah, please respond. Otherwise, it's like I'm speaking to, so you should respond. Give me some yes or no. So the British created this Aryan race. So what they did is, those from the north of India, they are little fair, and those from the extreme south, they are dark. So if you are a North Indian, you are an Aryan. If you are a South Indian, you are a Dravidian. So they created two racial identities, dividing India. Eventually they wanted to break India into two parts. One is the North Indian region, which is called as whatever they wanted to call it. And they wanted to break South India into a separate country. They in fact succeeded in breaking India in terms of religion. Pakistan, Bangladesh, we lost so much of land. So they wanted to further break India into more parts, divide and conquer. Right? So this was the strategy they tried, and they created this so-called Aryan invasion theory, which means that Aryans invaded from outside and they brought the Vedic culture, the Hindu religion, the Vedas, the Brahmanas. They all came from outside. They are not part of India. They are not local to India. This is the theory which the British used to spread in India. Why they used to do that? Because they wanted to justify their own invasions. They wanted to say that you guys are so disturbed that we are invading. Do you know that your own religion is coming from invaders who came 3,500 years back or 4,000 years back? Do you get the point? Yes. So it's like justifying the invasions and the colonialism and all that. So this was created by the British for the purpose of divide and conquer. And the theory behind this was that the Aryans came in chariots. Now the critical thing is here. Aryans came into India in their chariots, which were driven by horses, and those chariots had spoked wheels. Spoked wheels. So this was the theory which was spread. So according to this theory, India should not have chariots or spoked wheels or horses before 3,500 years back, because the British taught us that 3,500 years back the Aryans invaded into India, and before that India did not have any presence of Aryans or Vedic culture and Buddhism. So they spread this deliberately to create this divide within India. But the recent archaeological excavations in Sanauli and other areas have proven that the Vedic culture is in fact much older. These are chariots going back to 4,000 years, found in nearby Delhi, 1 hour drive from Delhi, in a place called Bagpat. In Bagpat, there is this famous chariot by the name of Sanauli chariots, which were found very recently. Okay, so now coming to the critical discussion right here. So there are two things. Either the Aryans have invaded from outside into India, or Aryans from India went to different parts of the globe and they spread their culture. It's either of it. It cannot be both. Do you get the point? It's either Aryans invaded from outside and came into India, or Aryans from India went to different parts of the world and spread their culture. It's either of it. So for the British, it was advantageous to spread the theory that Aryans have invaded from outside India. Why? They wanted to justify their invasions. They wanted to justify their invasions. So it's okay, they are invading. You guys are also products of invasion. 3,500 years back, your ancestors, Aryans, were invaders, were cruel guys who came from outside. And therefore it's okay, we also can invade you. So far good? You have understood so far?
Yes.
So far good? I mean, it's not so regular devotional topic, I understand. But we are going to go into worldwide Vedic heritage and how the Aryans have migrated and spread their Vedic culture. We are going to go deeper. So we need to have complete, presence here and complete understanding here. If there is no sync here or difficulty in understanding, we need to clear it before we proceed further. Otherwise, we are going to have a lot of difficulty. Yes.
I have a question. Like you say, they had this bad intention of splitting India. How do you know about the intention?
Because we have writings of Max Muller, William Jones, and Macaulay, many of these writers, and in which I'll give one example. Max Muller openly says that if India is not colonized, if India is not converted, this is a very bad thing. He writes a letter to his wife. I can share that probably after this session. There are many letters like that where they deliberately want to completely get rid of the Vedic culture, completely get rid of ancient Indian culture. So it's a good riddance. Get rid of this completely. Colonize them. Make them brown in skin, British in thought. Right?
I believe this completely. They tried. But is this the reason why they came forward with this theory? Or is it a genuine, just an interpretation of the evidence they had at the time?
Yeah, so we'll be coming to that. What kind of evidences they had, how real it is, what are the evidences which archaeology speaks. We'll be coming to that in this session. Yes.
These wheels you said, these chariots came 1400 BC.
They say that Aryans invaded into India at around 1500 BC. And the Vedic culture entered India at that time, otherwise India had no Vedic culture before that. This is what was taught by the British.
And the Sun Temple in Orissa.
Yeah.
Because they have also wheels, huh?
Yeah.
So.
But that's not 3,500 years old.
It's not so old.
Around 1,200 years. Maybe around 1,500, not more. Yeah. Yes. Yes. We need to have quick questions and answers because it's a long session. Yes.
Wasn't it also that the British discovered a similarity between European languages and Sanskrit?
Yes, they did find a lot of similarity.
And therefore...
And they were perplexed with the idea that what if Sanskrit is ancient? That sounds a lot of trouble, because then you're colonizing some people who are far more advanced than you in the past. That's quite a painful thing. So then again comes this fake language called Proto-Indo-European and all that. That's again a long discussion. We'll be coming to that. Okay, so far good. So we are continuing now. historical came back. Okay, here we go. So now when we study the Shastras are pretty explicit in terms of the migration of peoples. Now this is Baudhayana Srauta Sutra, migration of people as mentioned in the Baudhayana Srauta Sutra. Baudhayana writes that there was migration of different tribes or groups of people from India to other parts of the globe. Baudhayana writes, the date is not 800 BC, it's much more ancient, it's during the Vedic period. But this is an academic photo, so I have just kept it. But don't take the dates, it's much more ancient. Now, migration of people as mentioned in the Baudhayana Srauta Sutra. Baudhayana writes that, as you can see now, Ayu went westwards, his people are the Kuru Panchala and the Kashi Videha. This is the Ayava migration. His other people stayed at home, his people are the Gandhari, Pashu and Aratta. This is the Amavasava group. Basically, he says that people who were staying in the heart. So, this is the heartland of Bharat, the heart of Bharat. And people from here went into two different directions. There was migration eastwards and there was one migration westwards. And the westward migration went all the way till Gandhar. What is Gandhar? It's quite easy. Gandhar. Who knows?
Afghanistan?
Yeah, Gandhar became Kandahar, which is now Afghanistan, right? So there was a migration like that. And if you study the location of these various tribes, this is what we find. We find that the Anus were located in Punjab. These are the five. Okay, so Maharaj Yayati had 5 sons. He gave 5 sons, 5 different regions in Bharat. As you can see, I'll move the cursor. Anu was given the Punjab region. Yadu was given Maharashtra and the Gujarat region. Puru was given the heartland of Bharat. Okay, and Turvasu was given the southern region. And Drukyu got the regions of Gandhar. Now this is geographically proven. If you want a detailed thesis and analysis, I can provide that based on my research and also multiple other researchers. So Maharaj Yayati, during this very ancient time, he divided the lands of the Indian subcontinent into 5 regions and he gave to 5 sons. Oh, you take care of Gandhar, you take care of Punjab, you take care of Gujarat, you take care of Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, you take care of South India. He divided these 5 lands. And he gave these 5 lands to 5 different sons, and it was okay during his time. But as time progressed, there were conflicts between the sons of Druhyu, I mean the descendants of Druhyu and the descendants of Anu. So there were a lot of conflicts and wars between the Druhyus and the Anus. So in due course of time, now this is where Europe starts. Now listen carefully, this is where the European history will start coming into play. This is going to be interesting from this point onwards. So the Druhyus were a tribe located in Gandhar and they had striking similarities with one tribe in Europe. Okay, which will be coming in the next slide. So the Druhyus decided at a certain point of time, which is most likely around 3000 years back or between 3000 to 3500 years back, the Druhyus decided enough is enough, we are leaving. We don't want to stay here. And then we see a gradual migration of the Druhyus and the Druhyus going and settling down far and far and far all the way in a region called as Denmark. Yeah, the Druhyus history concludes, gets finished, or most of Druhyu history is wiped out or completed or finished in Gandhar, Afghanistan, and a new history, a new chapter starts of the Druhyus. Now we see many Indians, they look for migration, they say, oh, Europe is so beautiful and we like to settle here. The Druhyus did the same thing. They find this land to be very fascinating, very beautiful, and probably peaceful, because there are a lot of kingdoms and tribes there in India. Alright, so probably a very peaceful place. So the Druhyus had come and settled here. Interestingly, in the history of Britain, when you study the history of Britain or United Kingdom, there is a description which clearly mentions that the civilizational waves, see there are multiple civilizational waves which had entered North Europe, and one of them was from the Druids. So Druvyu history gets complete, finished in Gandhar and gets started in North Europe, specifically Denmark, and also in United Kingdom and some other parts, probably in Scandinavian regions also. So now this is again could be a theory. How could you prove that Druids are actually Druids? This question would come. So we will go deeper into this thing, that both Druids and Druids worship nature, and nature in the sense, not like they are just waving in the air and worshipping. They worship deities representing nature, like for example the sun or the moon or probably Indra, the god of thunder, the god of lightning. So Druids did this, Druids also did this. There are a lot of similarities, and the most interesting thing is that they had so much similarity in their worship methodology. Now you see this. Who is this?
Lakshmi?
Yeah, note carefully how she is standing. She is standing on a lotus and she is worshipped by two elephants. Jalabhishek. Abhisheka, Jalabhishek. Right? So this iconography has nothing to do with Europe. Has nothing to do with Europe. Europe doesn't have any goddess in the distant past who is worshipped in this way, that elephants are doing Jalabhishek and standing on lotus kind of iconography. That kind of form is not found. Please come. Is not found in. Probably you can clear some way for them.
Okay, good.
Come a little forward. Right? So in Europe, this iconography has no meaning or no sense whatsoever, unless you connect it with the Vedic culture of India. You see this? This is a very fascinating coin found in Denmark. This is a 2,200-year-old coin. This is found in Denmark, and the place is called as Gunderstrup Cauldron. Gunderstrup Cauldron. Very beautiful place, very fascinating place. It has evidences of the Druid culture, becoming more and more mature in Europe. North Europe specifically, northwestern Europe. So when you study this iconography, you can see very carefully, exact same iconography. We have the elephants, okay, and elephants are doing Jalabhishek on top of this female goddess and standing on lotus iconography. Exactly same as Lakshmi. There is no way that it could be any other goddess. Now, first let's be clear: is it a male goddess or a male god or a female goddess? If you have any doubt regarding that, it's clearly a female goddess. If you can understand, right? So, being worshipped by elephants, iconography it's applicable only for Lakshmi Devi. And I have missed one slide here. Oh, great! I have it. I'm so fortunate. Yes. So what's this? This is another fascinating detail found in Gunderstrup Cauldron. In Gunderstrup Cauldron, we're not able to see one. Please come here. Why did you struggle so much? Okay, you're getting here. Probably here if you want. Okay. So this is another fascinating seal, or a little bigger size seal. I would say it's not a seal. It's carved on a jar kind of thing. A jar, or maybe a kind of bowl. It's carved on top of it. This is the famous we saw today morning. We saw today morning, right? The famous. Many of you were part of the session. Yeah. Okay.
He said.
Okay, I didn't listen. Sorry. So this is the famous Pashupati, and this is again dated to 2,200 years. Found where? Not in India. Found where? Denmark. Gunderstrup Cauldron. So in Gunderstrup Cauldron, you see, fascinatingly, you have to watch this. See this. Watch those three leaves very carefully. This is from Denmark, and we have Pashupati carving here, and we have three leaves between his horns. Okay? Three leaves. And interestingly, these three leaves, okay, I'm zooming it here. Okay, these are the three leaves. Now, why this is important? Because this is from the Ashwatha tree. I think, how do we call Ashwatha in English? Banyan tree? Banyan tree. And Have you by any chance seen a banyan tree growing in Denmark?
Really.
Have you by any chance,
Banyan tree.
by the widest chances, a banyan tree in Denmark?
Never been to
I personally have done my research trying to find this presence of banyan trees in Europe. I didn't find it. Now this is a very fascinating data because in Indus Valley civilization, where the British used to be part of, banyan tree iconography, banyan tree symbols were very important, were very prominent. This is from the Indus Valley civilization. See it? Banyan tree leaves were very important, but not so much in Europe. So the banyan tree symbolism, Pashupati, they have been carried forward from India all the way till Denmark. And of course, Denmark was not a country at that time, separate country. It was a region, different kingdoms used to, the geography kept changing. But imagine that the Vedic culture had, in a slightly modified form, had reached North Europe, in Denmark. So this is the Pashupati scene. I think you came just now, Madhuri. This is the previous. Okay, this is this coin of Lakshmi found in Denmark, Gandhashrukalra. So the speciality of this tree and the leaves is that in Gita, Krishna says that among trees I am Ashwatha. Among trees I am Ashwatha. And even in the Buddhist religion, this tree is very important. The Buddha is said to have attained his, how do you call it?
Enlightenment.
Enlightenment, correct. Enlightenment while sitting below a banyan tree. So banyan tree is very important in Buddhist religion as well. If you go to a Buddhist country, never dare to disturb a banyan tree or try to harm it. You will be probably arrested. It's that important. They really respect the banyan tree. Probably like how important it is for a Vaishnava, how Tulsi is important for a Vaishnava. Similarly, banyan tree is very important for a Buddhist because Buddha attained his enlightenment below a banyan tree. Now, how in the world would a banyan tree symbolism reach Europe? Just think about it. Because people have, it clearly shows that there is a migration. There has been some migration or a contact between people from India or places where Ashwatha was growing. And we clearly see that in Indus Valley civilization there was Pashupati. There is also Ashwatha. There is also evidences of these Ashwatha leaves. Okay, so clearly goes to show to the fact that there has been a migration from Druhyus to Druids. Again, Druhyu to Druid is a complete 1 hour seminar. I am giving very briefly just 5 minutes of the summary of the movement of the Druhyus and how they became the Druids. Now, coming to the next interesting migration or interesting impact. This is from West Asia. Have you heard of this country named Turkey?
Yeah.
Right? Very famous and prominent country. So in Turkey, the impact of these gods was very prominent. As we can see here from the treaty between Hittite king Sipulu Liama and Mitanni king Shativasa. These are two different kings from two different kingdoms. They did a treaty. You understand what is a treaty?
Agreement.
An agreement, right? Two kings are doing a treaty, an agreement, and in this treaty, in this agreement, they are invoking 4 gods, 4 devatas. And who are these devatas? Indra, Mitra, Varuna, and Nasatya. Indra, clear?
Yes.
Mitra, clear? Who is Mitra? In Sanskrit, the word Mitra means friend. So who is Mitra?
He was worshipped in the Roman armies.
Who? I mean,
Mitra was-
who is in Vedic culture?
Yes.
No. Krishna is, of course, Mitra, but not, there is one devata by the name of Mitra.
So the moon
Any
god?
guesses?
The moon god?
No. Moon god cannot be considered a Mitra because he will just vanish at some times.
Sun?
Yes. Sun god Surya Dev was known as Mitra. Om Mitraya Namaha is a very prominent verse found in the Vedas invoking the sun god or Surya Dev. So Mitra worship was very prominent and therefore they invoked, hey Indra, Hey Mitra. And third one is
Varun.
Varuna. Who is Varuna?
What?
God of the waters.
God of waters. And Nasatya. Any guesses? One of the two Ashwini Kumaras was Nasatya. So they are invoking one Ashwini Kumar, Indra, Mitra and Varuna, found in Turkey. And you know the fascinating thing about this, the dating, how old it is. You know this inscription, how old it is? This is nearly 3,400 years old.
10,000?
3,400.
3,000.
3,400 years before, in Turkey, people used to worship the Vedic gods, Indra, Mitra, Varuna and Nasatya.
In which language is that?
This one is, I forgot. I'll do one thing. This, you can search this last name, Bogaskoy. You can search Bogaskoy inscriptions. You'll get the full details on Wikipedia.
And the names are exactly
Exactly the same. Yes. Bogaskoy inscriptions. I forgot because it's long time since I've done, more than 2 years. But I know the date is, all these data which I've given is very accurate. I'm going to get exact details. Search for Bogaskoy inscriptions. Bogaskoy inscriptions from Turkey. So now coming to the Hittite culture. Hittites were again an ancient tribe existing in parts of West Asia. So the Hittites also had a god by the name of, any guesses? His name was Indra, but they could not pronounce it. Indra became Inder, Inder became Inner. So there was a god by the name of Inner. There was a god by the name of Inner, worshipped by the Hittites. Hittites were a very ancient tribe, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. So the Hittites worshipped Indra in a very similar form as described in our Puranas like Bhagavatam. So what is described is that Indra dominates the dragon or the big snake demon, and Vritrasura is often compared to a dragon-like or a snake-like creature, and Indra is known to have dominated it. So this is very famously described in our scriptures. So this story was very famous, so they had to carve it in the form of a statue. So there is Hittite Indra. Evidence of Vedic culture in Turkey. So any guesses what is this?
Sika.
When I don't type this text here. Sometimes I go to colleges or maybe schools, some young boys and girls, they say, "Sir, it's a snake."
No.
It's not a snake. It's a shika. Okay, so the head of a priest probably, it's a shika. This is found in Turkey. So there are multiple recorded points of emigration out of India. Emigration. There are two terms. One is immigration and another is emigration. One is coming inside, one is going outside. So we have multiple recorded points of emigration out of India. And prominent among them I have mentioned here. This is Parshuram's chasing of kings. Parshuram is chasing away many kings away from India. And this Parshuram was killing the Kshatriyas very powerfully. Many of these Kshatriyas, please come. Many of these Kshatriyas were, very disturbed, and they ran away in the fear of Parshuram. You know the story that Parshuram was fiercely attacking. So many of these kings went and settled in different parts of the globe. Then we have emigration number 2, which is the King Sagara. There was this famous king by the name of Maharaj Sagara. He used to do the same thing, chase away many kings, settle in different parts of the globe. Maharaj Bharata did the same thing. And then we have Dasaratya battle. In Rig Veda describes about Dasaratya battle. Now what is Dasaratya battle? 10 different kings came together and attacked a king by the name of Maharaj Sudas of the Bharata Vamsha. There was a famous king mentioned in the Rig Veda by the name Maharaj Sudas. So Sudas fought against 10 kings, 10 powerful kings, yet Sudas won that battle. And he chased away many of these tribes and they went and settled in different parts of the globe. So just to give you an idea of all the new guests here, we are speaking about impact of Indian culture in Europe before 2000 years. So it's a very interesting seminar that way, so that you feel connected. Okay. So number 5 is battle between the 5 ancient kingdoms. So these 5 ancient kingdoms we showed you in the previous slides, right? Anu, Puru, Durhu, Yadu, Turvasu. The fights between them also led to the migration of many of these tribes. And Mahabharat battle was a mega battle from 73 kingdoms fought in that war. And after the war, it was huge disintegration because the power center was starting to get diluted. So in that way also many kingdoms started moving far and getting disconnected from Bharat and so on. And finally the drying up of Saraswati River at around, anyone remembers what was the date of Saraswati River drying?
4,000 years.
Great. So we saw that today morning. And we also have the Parsi sources. Parsi religion, Zoroastrian religion around 3,500 years ago. They give a very interesting detail. They say in the Zen Avesta, which is like their Veda, how Veda is for us, it's Zen Avesta for them. In the Avesta, when they had one, it mentioned that Hapta Hindu is one of the original 16 Iranian lands, homelands. Iranians came from 16 locations. Ancient Iranians came from 16 locations. And one of them was Hapta Hindu. Any guesses? Hapta Hindu. Hapta Hindu is Sapta Sindhu. They had problems pronouncing the S sound. Right? The word hepta is quite common here. I mean, I've heard many Europeans telling me that hapta refers to 7, if I'm right. Right? So that comes from Sapta. Saptam is pronounced as hapta. So Sapta Sindhu becomes Hapta Hindu in the Iranian culture. And what they say is that Sapta Sindhu had, the Iranians came from 16 locations, 16 different parts surrounding Iran, and one of them was Hapta Hindu. Now what is Hapta Hindu? The 7 rivers which are flowing in Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Kashmir. So all these 7 rivers were very important. Geographically we have multiple references in the Veda and the Mahabharata about the Sapta Sindhu. These 7 rivers were considered as the homeland of the Vedic culture. 7 rivers, Sapta Sindhu. So what the Iranians say that Sapta Sindhu is one of our homelands. So can you see again there is a migration from India to the west. Did you get it what I'm saying? It's from India to the west. Now, coming to this topic, Yavana. Okay, Yavana. Now what exactly is the word Yavana? Yavana typically means who turns his face away, literally meaning. Who turns his face away or goes in the opposite direction or who removes himself or he keeps himself away. Right? So that name was given to those people who do not wanted to stay connected to Bharat, to probably Indraprastha or Hastinapur. So that was kind of a derogatory name. Oh, you're a Yavana. It had nothing to do with their race. It was derogating them for wanting to stay disconnected from the Vedic culture. Yavana, you're a Yavana. Wanting to stay away. Right? You want to stay away? You're a Yavana. Then eventually the meaning became more and more negative in that sense. It became like a foreigner. It also meant a barbarian. Sometimes it refers to the Greeks also that they were Yavanas. Yes. I'm coming to that. Yeah. Lord, honestly speaking, this is a long seminar. I'm trying to go as fast as possible without compromising on the quality. We're going to cover that as well. Okay. So, the region of Bactria is north of Afghanistan approximately. Bactria to Iona. This was considered as the Yamana lands. The Yamanas were in part of it, which means from Afghanistan till Iona. Now what is Iona? Iona, sorry?
In Greek?
Yeah, it refers to Greeks, but the Greeks were ruling Turkey at one point of time. And in Greece, there is a famous city by the name of Iona. In Turkey there is a famous city by the name of Iona, and that comes from a mispronunciation of the word Yavana. Yavana, Yauna, Iona. That's how the word comes into play. So clearly goes to show that the name, now it cannot be the other way around, that Iona is the original name and it became Yavana. Doesn't make sense. It could be mispronounced from Yavana to Iona, but not the other way around. Again, it's an indirect indication of a migration. Okay? So, Yavana, what happens is, Yavana, it's either Yavana became Zoroastrian, all Greeks were considered in general to be Yavanas, according to the Ashokan rock edicts, and Arabic, Turkic and Persians were together known as Yavana, Yavana, Yunana, that way, Yunani, all these words come into play from that point, Yunani and all that. So who are these Yavanas? So in Mahabharata also there is a description, and we see also in the Bhagavatam there is a description of a famous Yavana king by the name of Kali. So Kali Yavana is again from the west. He came, he is said to have come and he brought his army, there was a big fight and all that. So Yavana is mentioned in the Bhagavatam also, and in Mahabharata also Yavanas were part of the army of Kauravas. The Kauravas employed Yavanas to fight in the Mahabharata war. And they were classified as people of North India, not Europe. Yavanas were classified as people of North India, along with Kamboja, Gandhar, Kirata. So when you see this Kamboja and Gandhar, Kirata, these are all tribes in the northwest of modern day India, which is around Afghanistan, parts of Iran. So this was where the Yavanas used to stay during the Mahabharata period. I'll come to the geography further deeply. So Yavanas located in the west. Brihad Samhita of Brahamira mentions that the northwest region is inhabited by the Mlechahi Yavana. Mlechas and Yavanas. And Mullai Patil, again a 2300-year-old Tamil literature, it speaks of the Yavanas from the west. Now, this is the most fascinating detail when you study deeply about the history of the Yavanas. There is this migration, there is the migration pattern of the great Pandav brother by the name of Nakula. See, here's Nakula. As you can see here, this is, this is Indraprastha. So, Nakula is given the task of conquering the western direction. 4 Pandavas get 4 directions. Okay? 4 Pandavas get 4 directions. You know the story that Maharaj Yudhishthir stays back in Indraprastha and he tells to 4 brothers, all 4 of you go to 4 different directions and conquer. Right? Bhima goes all the way till northeast and probably even further, northeast India. And Arjun goes to parts of Tibet and parts of even further above Kashmir, further more than Kashmir. And Nakula goes all the way till parts of Pakistan and maybe even touching till Afghanistan. That was Nakula's trip. Okay, and Sahadev goes all the way till Lanka. It's all described in Mahabharata. It's all described. So when you study Nakula's patterns, it is said that the last kingdom which he conquered, you see all these different kingdoms he conquered. You can see here, Indraprastha, Rohitaka, then he goes to Malava, Mulasthan. Mulasthan is Multan. There is this city called Multan in Pakistan. Right? Multan comes from Mahabharata's Mulasthan. Right? So these are cities of the Mahabharata period which got their name. So then he goes to Shivi Chakravarti, he was ruling from this, which is now in Pakistan of course. And then Kekaya kingdom, Kaikeyi from this kingdom, again now in Pakistan. Then Uttara Jyotisha, Takshashila, and all the way till the last kingdom which Nakula conquered was Yavana kingdom. So the Yavanas were pretty close to modern day India 5000 years back. Okay, now coming further. Okay, we got it. So Agni Puran also refers. Now these are all too many details of Yavanas, so a little speed up here. So this is all geography of the Yavanas which we have covered in greater. I'll give it a little skip. This is from Buddhist sources and Mahavastu and all that. Now coming to a little perspective of the Iranian sources. Now this is Naqsh-e Rustam inscription. In this king Darius, 2500 years back, he says that by the favor of Ahura Mazda, these are the countries which I seized outside of Persia. I ruled over them, they bore tribute to me, they did what was said to them, they held my law firmly. Media, Elam, Parthia, Arya, Bactria, Sogdia, Khorasmia, Brandiana, Arachosia, Satagidia, Gandhara, which is Gandhar, and India Hindus. So the word Hindu, we can see one of the earliest references to this word, Hindu, which is Sindhu, Hindu, these are connected in that way. So this is the earliest reference. Then we have, now coming to very, very fascinating detail, because generally devotees from the West and even people, the ordinary people in West, they feel many times disconnected from the spiritual practices of India. They feel like, what is this? People are simply dancing and chanting. This is not our culture, not our religion. And what people in India think? Oh, this is so amazing, yeah. The Westerners are dancing, you know, they are dancing for kirtan. This is so amazing, yeah. Sometimes they think maybe something wrong with them. Anyway, so they are very excited and surprised. How can Westerners become devotees? Wow. They are very amazed and surprised. But the fact of the matter is, this is not a new thing. Westerners coming to the bhakti of Krishna or following the Vedic culture of India is not a new thing. It is not created just 50 or 100 years back. It is a very ancient thing. Because Krishna is not God of the Indians alone. It's not that, Indians have a copyright over Krishna. That Krishna is just ours and nobody else should worship it or we decide how. It was not like that. People from all across the world used to be connected to Krishna, they used to worship him. One such example is this famous pillar called as Heliodorus pillar. Heliodorus pillar is 2200 years old. Heliodorus was a devotee of Krishna. And he writes, this Garuda pillar, erected for Vasudeva. Okay, I will give you a context. He is coming from Takshashila. He is a traveler going to meet the king of Kashi, Kashiputra Bhagavatra. And on the way, he stops at Madhya Pradesh in a place called as Vidisha district. And there is this famous region called as Besnagar. And in Besnagar, he constructs a temple for Vasudeva. And right opposite to the temple, see, every temple has a Garuda pillar. You have a Garuda pillar here?
Yeah.
Garuda Stambha. Outside, yeah. Every temple has, every Vishnu temple has a Garuda Stambha. So similarly, probably we should have an inscription in the Garuda pillar. Right? Because because 1000 years later, 2000 years later, somebody will come and see that this was this famous Radhadesh temple in 2025 CE or whatever it is. So this is how the inscriptions used to be carved. In Garuda Pilla, he has written that for Vasudeva, I am constructing this temple. And my name is Bhagavad Heliodorus. My name is Bhagavad Heliodorus and I am the son of Dion. And I am constructing this temple and I am going to meet Kashiputra Bhagavatra. And this particular temple or pillar is dated to 2200 years old. This is not a new thing. Even before the period of Christianity, there were devotees from the West who had a Greek name, Heliodorus, who were devotees of Krishna. And they had constructed temples for Krishna in India, in modern day India. Okay? So, again I'll clip it. Okay, now we'll come to one of the most fascinating details of the entire discussion. I mean, we have just started scraping the surface and Kal Devta is not that merciful towards us. That's already, I think, what's the exact time now?
6:33.
6:33. We have to conclude by 7 because there is Gaurarati. So we'll try to do as much as possible. So this is the famous traveler by the name of Megasthenes. I think some of you have attended this part. I had covered it briefly in previous sessions. Okay, Megasthenes is a famous Greek traveler. 2200 years ago, he came to India. And he describes that he is staying in the court of a king named Sandrocotus. Now what is Sandrocotus? It is basically a mispronunciation of the word Chandragupta. So the Greeks had problem pronouncing certain names. So Chandragupta they had mispronounced as Sandrocotus. Okay, in the court of Sandrocotus, he stayed in the court of Sandrocotus and he gives very fascinating historical detail. Some of you have already listened to it, but most of you I don't think have listened to it, so I'm creating it again here. That he says, Megasthenes said that he was staying, he had attended a place by the name of, he came to a city which was known as Methora. Any guesses? 2300 years back. He came to a city by the name of Methora. It's clear. Mathura. And in Methora there was a river flowing. And that river was called by the name of
Yamuna.
Sorry? No. It was called by the name Jobaris. Just like how Ganga became Ganges. Jamuna became Jobaris. So he says, in the city of Methura, the river Jobaris is flowing. And along the banks of Jobaras, there is this tribe by the name of Saur Senoi. Any guesses what is Saur Senoi? Shursen, which means of the Shursen dynasty. And they are worshipping a famous person by the name of,
Krishna.
that's not right, Heracles. Heracles.
Herkesh.
Heracles. He is worshipping, the Shursena people are worshipping this famous person by the name of Heracles. Now, who exactly is Heracles? We'll go deeper into it. So, what happened in during the colonial period, that the identity of Heracles was forced upon this reference. So, what the British tried to create, and even some scholars, even in the modern times, they tried to create, is that Heracles is actually a Greek god. Because there was actually a Greek god by the name of Heracles. There is still a Greek god by the name of Heracles. So they created this narrative that Indians were actually worshipping a Greek god Heracles. Okay, so now my question is, why would somebody in Mathura, the land of Krishna, and where Yamuna is flowing, Jobaras is flowing, and the Shursena people, who are basically the Yadavas, who worship a Greek god Heracles, would not make any sense to me at least. So in reality, this Heracles is likely to be a mispronunciation of the word Hari Kula Isha. Hari, who is the Kula Isha of Shursena. So he might have heard this, because they have a habit of mispronunciation. Like how Ganga becomes Ganges and Chandragupta became Sandrakotus. So this is most likely that Hari Kula Isha Shursena means Hari, who is the Kula Isha. Kula Isha means the Kuls, the family's god, the family god. Krishna was the family god of the Yadavas, family god of the Shurasenas. It's likely that he misunderstood and he said, oh, the Greek god Heracles and Indian Krishna or Indian god they have many similarities. So it's most likely that this is. I'll prove it how in further slides. I'll prove it is actually that it is Krishna. See, Heracles and Krishna have a lot of similarities. Okay, one similarity is both of them have the snake, dragon taming story or snake taming story. Krishna dominates the Kaliya, Heracles dominates the Hydra. Okay, and in the Greek version, in the writings of many Greek writers, I think possibly Ptolemy in 18, they describe of please come, sir. You're free to come. Please come. So. Describes the fight between Porus and Alexander. Porus and Alexander. So you must be aware that Alexander invaded into India, tried to invade into India, and there was this famous king called as Porus who was defending India. So in the army of Porus, it is said by Greek sources that the Indians used to carry the photo of Heracles. Now just imagine if France and Germany had a fight during the Second World War. For instance, I'm saying for an example, would France or the French army like to carry a portrait of Hitler? Or maybe any Greek person or a famous Greek person, any German person. They would not want to carry a German figure in their army. Why would they do that? Doesn't make sense. So when Alexander and Porus are fighting, Porus' army is carrying the photo of Heracles, as said by Greek sources. So it definitely cannot be the Greek god Heracles. Why? It doesn't make any sense to carry the photo of your, because Alexander was a Greek and his god was Heracles. It doesn't make any sense for the army of Porus to carry the photo of the Greek god. So clearly goes to show from multiple evidences. Again, this is again a detailed discussion, but I'm giving you a brief idea that this is clearly Krishna. And the culture of Heracles worship had carried forward all the way till West Asia and also parts of Africa as well, Heracles. So much so that the Phoenicians were basically the Vedic Pan. In the Vedic literature, in the Vedas specifically, there is a tribe by the name of Pan, P-A-N. And these Pans eventually became the Phoenicians. Have you heard by any chance? There is a group of people, Phoenicians. Phoenicians are basically the Vedic Pans. right?
They're the ones that invented the money.
Hmm?
The nations invented money, no?
We need to reconsider that.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Stromatis in his writings he says that the Brahmanas, you know who is a Brahmana? Brahmana. They were sattvic. Sattvic in the sense he didn't use the word sattvic, he said they were very peaceful, they're austere, they believe in rebirth, and they despised death. They neither eat anything which has life, they don't take wine, and they worship Heracles. Okay, so there are a lot of similarities between Krishna, how the killing of Banasur episode, and Heracles killing of Gerion's episode. So when Megasthenes came into India, it is likely that seeing so many similarities between Hari and Heracles, he would have presumed that these two are same. But in no way they are the same personalities. It is possible that the Greek Heracles could have got some qualities based on Indian Hari. So in general, you see this is a fascinating thing, very fascinating, that in Indo-European cultures, among the different pagan cultures, you will find that this is a very common trend. The common trend is there will be a king, who will be a bad guy, a tyrant, an usurper, and there will be a princess. There will be a princess related to the king, and there will be a prophecy. There will be a prophecy that the prince's child will kill the king. You get the idea? There will be a king, and one princess will be related to the king, and there will be a prophecy that the king will be killed by the prince's child. Okay, and the king becomes disturbed and he puts the girl in prison. And number 5, the hero is born supernaturally. Supernatural birth of a hero. Okay, and point number 6, hero is revealed gradually, everybody comes to know, oh, the hero is there, he's in Vrindavan, for example. They start identifying the hero, and generally that hero is raised by cowards. Not just in India, this is not just in India I'm saying that among multiple Indo-European cultures, the hero culture is following this pattern, exact same pattern. That's very fascinating. Okay, and then he is raised by cowherds, and then he grows up and becomes an exceedingly strong person and kills monstrous creatures. He comes back to the capital and kills the king. And 10, he frees his parents. Okay, he frees his parents, he becomes a king or installs someone else as a king. He creates a new city. Example? Any examples? Correct? Dwarka creates a new city, wins a princess. Example? Rukmini. Defeats other kings. Example? After a long life, leaves the world in strange or unexpected circumstances. Now this is the pattern. These 15 points are pattern among all or most of these Indo-European cultures. Now, is this by chance that all of them are following the same pattern? Think about it for a moment. Right? Now, we are just 15 minutes more. I think question and answers we will take it outside. So we'll try to cover as much as possible. This is a very interesting detail referring to Dion. Dion is an amazing historical reference. Now, who is Dion? Dion is a Greek writer. And Dion Chrysostom says that Indians possessed an Iliad of 100,000 verses. You know what is the Iliad and Odyssey? These are epics of the Greek culture. Iliad and Odyssey, right? So what Dion says that Indians possess an Iliad. Instead of using the word epic, for him epic is interchangeable with the word Iliad. Iliad is an epic, epic is an Iliad. He thought it that way. Like for example,
Bible.
Sorry?
Like people use Bible to me
as the holy book. When somebody says holy book, they give Bible. They say Bible is the holy book. So it is interchangeable. So in that way, epic means Iliad, Iliad means epic. So when he came to India or he got information about Indian sources, he says that Indians possessed an Iliad of 100,000 verses. And among all the epics, the only epic which 100,000 verses in the whole planet, in fact, that is one and only
Mahabharata.
Mahabharata is the only epic. So if somebody says, oh Mahabharata, for information, Mahabharata's earliest manuscript, you know how old it is? 1,000 years old. The earliest manuscript of Mahabharata, which we have today, the oldest, is 1,000 years old. Why? Because the manuscripts won't survive forever. You need to constantly recopy it, create new versions based on the old versions. Because these are all not durable materials, the palm leaves. They will get destroyed one day or the other. So you need to recopy it. So the oldest manuscript is 1,000 years. But, for example, we have Gita here. The Gita is printed, this particular copy in the cupboard might be printed 10 years back. But the shloka itself is very ancient. Correct? Similarly, Mahabharata manuscript might be new. But based on these references, we can understand that the Mahabharata book itself was very ancient. And therefore, we have Greek writers referring to the Mahabharata. Why would they do that? The Indian person is an idiot of 100,000 verses. Now it's becoming more and more interesting. We are entering into very famous Greek traveler, but he's anonymous. Nobody knows his name. His book is very famous. The book is called Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. He says that trade with the Indian harbour of Barigaza. He describes of a famous city by the name of Barigaza. Barigaza. What is Barigaza? Barigaza is basically, again, a mispronunciation of the word Brigukacha. Bhrigu Muni used to stay in that place, and today Brigukacha is famously known as the city of, if you know Gujarat, Bharuch. There is a famous city in India, Bharuch. So Bharuch gets its name from Brigukacha. So Brigukacha becomes Barigaza, and then he also says, he describes extensively about the city of, the port city of Baraka. Baraka. Now, the Jain sources have also mispronounced in a similar way. Dwaravati becomes Bharavati. Dwaravati becomes Bharavati in Jain sources. So, similarly, Greek sources have also mispronounced the word Dwaraka as Baraka. I have done a detailed analysis of how the port city of Dwaraka and its geographical description in the Periplus matches with the modern city of Dwaraka. I have done that in my book. When you read my book, you will get in chapter 11. This is I'm giving you a brief idea of that. Okay, now it's becoming more. We have, let me just quickly see what all we can cover. Oh, we have a lot. Okay, so okay, what I'll do is I'll cover Mithraism. I think that's very important. We cover the Mithra culture and Kilmida, and this is also very interesting. Okay, let me just cover the Kilmida. So, the Mahabharata mentions of a tribe by the name of Kilmida, connected to Bhima. And the history of Kilmidas is described as that they were a branch of the Shaka dynasty, and Shakasthan was a very famous kingdom during the 3,500 years back, 4,000 years back. And Shakasthan became Sistan. In Iran there is a province, Sistan Baluchistan province. Because Baluchistan is partly in Iran and partly in Pakistan. Sistan Baluchistan province. So Sistan comes from the word Shakastan. And Shaka, they were branch of Shakas, and these Kilmida dynasty, they went far and far and far, and they became the Gimilais. And the Bible mentions that one group of authors of the Bible were the Gimilais. Kilmida from the Mahabharata period. Okay? And apart from that, we have Surya, Mitra worship very prominently spread across the Indo-European culture. Like Mitra was very, very important, extremely important. If you do a proper archaeology across Europe, you will keep finding Mitra, you will keep finding Indra, because they were very famous and very important. The Romans, the Greeks gave huge importance to Mitra. Now, since I am doing this program here in Europe, I think it's very important that I'll introduce you to one very interesting temple which I have not shown here in my slide. You see, this is London Mithraeum. Now, how many of you been to London? How many have been to this place? London Mithraeum. Now, if you go to London, make it a point that you will visit this place. This is right in the heart of London city, next to the Buckingham Palace. You see here, this is London Mithraeum and Buckingham Palace. See how close it is. Just 2.8 miles. This is the temple of Mithra, which was constructed by the Romans. And you know the size of it is 2.8 acres. And this was found by chance. During the Second World War, this entire area was bombed by the Allies, the Allied forces. So after the war was over, the people in the United Kingdom thought we need to clean up the mess, we need to dig deeper. What if another war happens and we are in trouble? So we need to dig deeper and make sure that we clean up the mess and we make a proper foundation. So when they did that, when they dig deeper, they found deeper, something, some sites below. And they went deeper, excavated wider, 2.8 acres of underground temple of Mithra, the sun god Mithra, Surya Dev Mithra, found right in London city. And Mithra was that important that he was there in the Parsi culture, he was there in the Greek culture, he was worshipped by the Romans, he was worshipped by multiple of these pagan religions and cultures. Mithra was extremely important during the ancient times. We have this inscription also, Bogasco inscriptions, going back to 3,400 years. So this is the Greek version of Mithra, as you can see here, Helios. Okay, this is Greek Helios. Can you see the similarities? This is the Greek Helios. See the chariot, see the number of horses, see the way he's standing on the chariot. See how this is the Indian Surya, and this is the Greek Helios. See the similarities. The number of horses, the iconography is so strikingly similar. Okay. So Mithra worship was very prominent. God of light, God of sun, became the god of Helios. Okay, from Spain, all the way from Spain to, the west, extreme west of Europe, all the way till India. The worship of Mithra was very, very prominent, extremely important in the ancient times. And to conclude, we will have a discussion on the Ashwamedha. Archaeology has also given evidences of Ashwamedha worship in Europe. You know this tradition of Ashwamedha, that the horse will be floated around, challenge. If anybody dares to stop the horse, this will be considered as a challenge to the king. And once the horse successfully comes back, the horse will be sacrificed. So this tradition has been found in the archaeological record. You see here, in the Greek, Roman, Celtic and Nordic cultures used to follow the Ashwamedha practice 2,500, 3,000, 3,500 years back. It's proven in the archaeological record. So horse sacrifice in Mesopotamia is also documented in a liturgical text which mentions god Marduk. And it belongs to the Babylonians related to gods Shamash and Adad. So like that, we can go deeper into all these aspects, but just to give you an idea. So, my conclusion is like this. The conclusion is that it is possible that the original Vedic culture had impacted the classical Greeks in multiple ways. One possible way is that through the ancient Yavanas and because we know these ancient Yavanas were existing in Afghanistan, and it's possible that they impacted through the Zoroastrians, which is the Parsis of Iran. They had impacted through the Buddhists. Buddhists also had great impact on the classical Greeks. And also through the Hittites, Egyptians, Druze. And they had their own local culture also, their own local flavor also. So I'm not saying Greeks are fully impacted by India or the Vedic culture. What I'm saying is that in multiple ways, the Greeks have been impacted by the Vedic culture, and also they have their own flavor and their own culture as well. So what we got is a very unique identity and a unique culture going back to 2,500, 3,000 years and so on. So we tried to cover just the Greeks here and some part of the worldwide heritage, Mitra, Varuna and all that. Again, we have just 5 minutes before we conclude. So I would like to keep the questions and answers outside. Before we conclude, since my trip is going to come to an end, I would recommend that if you have any questions, you can connect with me outside and we can stay in touch. I'm more than happy to help devotees with this kind of content, because they can help a lot in preaching. Because the difficulty which we face here often in Europe is there's a disconnection between the European audience and us, basically. So this is very useful information, very powerful information which you can use in preaching, and this can come very handy when you are wanting to connect with people here. So all this information, in fact most of this information is well documented in the book Mahabharata Myth or History, chapter 13. Chapter 13 of the book Mahabharata Myth or History, if you see, there is an entire section of how Mahabharata, Krishna and the Vedic culture has impacted different parts of the globe. So it's a must read. If you have that book, it also answers much of your queries. It's also a good bridge which you can create here with the people here. So with this, I conclude, and thank you so much. And I think probably tomorrow will be the last session. But I mean, some of you I might not meet tomorrow. So I personally wanted to thank all of you for the amazing affection and the kind of love which was provided here the last 4 days or so. I'm now going to move to the next country and then back to India. So really acknowledge all the devotees here, including the management, Mahaprabhu and many other devotees who have made this a very nice trip, very memorable trip for me. In fact, my plan was not to come here. My plan was to go to the US, and the trip got cancelled, or rather I would say delayed. The event there got delayed, and then I had said okay for coming here, and I did not want to back off. So I said okay, let's make it happen. And also I wanted to mainly go for the communications program. So I thought coming here and going would be better in many circumstances for many scenarios which I was in at that